Hi, this is Lee Harvey. I'm the Team Rubicon Crisis Innovation Lead, and I'm stepping into the spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network.
Hey, everybody, this is your host, Bob Louthen. Welcome to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. Pleased to have as my guest today Lee Harvey of Team Rubicon. He's the Crisis Innovation Lead there, but he's also a former NFL football player and a rocket scientist and a Green Beret. That's probably the first time in my life I've said those three things together in one sentence. Lee, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, and hey guys, thanks for tuning in.
We were talking before the program, and I was playing Who You Know with our guest Lee. We'll give a shout out to Congressman Mike Waltz out there. Tell everybody how you knew Mike.
Oh, me and Mike go way back. Me and Mike actually went to Special Forces school together. Mike was a class ahead of me. We're from the same unit. So Mike was the Bravo Company commander, and I was the Charlie Company commander. And me and Mike remain friends to this day. Good friend of mine. Love him to death.
I'm trying to get Mike on the program. Great VMI grad, and so has his hands full this week running for Congress there in Florida. So Lee, I always start with my guests and kind of talk a little bit about where you grew up, and you went to. I guess you went into the military and then went back to college, right? But give us the history of the young Lee Harvey.
Oh man, I don't know if statute of limitations have passed before I get to.
Okay.
no, no, I was I grew up in kind of a vulnerable neighborhood, a vulnerable community, and like a lot of kids my age, I grew up without a father. I honestly only saw my father twice in my whole life, and the second time I saw him is on his deathbed. So kind of grew up. I had some obstacles to overcome, and for me, like a lot of people, I know this is the only story out there, but the military was a way out for me. So
Hmm.
I
What
joined the
part of the
military.
country did you grow up in?
I grew up in Missouri,
Okay.
the Show Me state. So I got to give a shout out to the Show Me people out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the military honestly became my father. Became a father figure for me because it taught me discipline and you know esprit de corps and leadership. It became a father figure for me, and so to this day, as much as I've given to this country, I think the military has given a lot to me.
So you enlisted as a young person, did you not? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I enlisted. I think it was 18, 19. Went off, joined the military, and um, 4 years later, I was at that crossroads of do I reenlist or do I get out and try something new? And so back then, I've always had this adage about the military that that if you try to get out, they want to keep you in. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
stay in, they want to kick you out. So I was
Okay.
like, I'm not gonna let that hold me back. So I felt that at that point in my life, I've reached as far as I could go in my current position. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be an educated man. So I got out and decided to go to college. Step out on that branch of faith.
You went and played football at Texas Southern University, and you didn't take an easy curriculum either. You chose a harder path as a major, did you not?
Yeah, I elected to go and become an engineering student. So I think I was probably one of two engineering student athletes on the team. So I mean, sometimes it worked in my favor because the engineering courses they maybe offered one or two throughout the semester, so I could get out of practice. Because that was so
Oh,
that was it. I necessarily wasn't a big weightlifter in school, so I really hated going to lift weights. So that was my out. So I
what was your
conveniently
position in college?
college I was a strong safety. I started off as running back, and then I was doing fairly well as a running back. In full disclosure, kind of got the big head, and so stopped going to school, and so I was ineligible my junior year.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so I was ineligible my junior year, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then once I got back eligible, my senior year, I came back, and my position was occupied, I should say. So
Hmm.
my coach was like, "Hey, I think you're athletic enough to play strong safety." So I was like, "Okay." I mean, I just wanted to play football at that point. I enjoyed the game. I had no thoughts about me ever going to the next level. So I was there to get an education and have some fun playing football at the same time. So it just happened to work out for me.
And you did take the next step. You said you spent too little time in the NFL, but I didn't spend any. So tell us about that experience.
Oh man, I tell people all the time, when I went to college, I played a little football. When I went to the NFL, I played even less. So, so,
It's
so,
big time stuff. It's real men playing that game.
oh yeah, and it taught me a lot. I think probably one of the biggest things it taught me was that to dedicate myself to something. Like I didn't go off and play football right out of high school, and I felt like I had a second chance, coming out of college. Because when the scouts first started coming around, I still remember to the day the first scout that came to see me, and I had just had a great game, and I was conference player of the week, and I remember walking this field house, and this guy was standing there, and I walked past him, and we had our defensive end. He was all American, so I just assumed that they were there to see him. And then I went to the training room to get some treatment on my neck from tackling, and our trainer's like, "Hey, there's some guys here to see you." And then the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles came in, and they were like,
Hmm.
"Man, this guy just walked right by us." Oh, and they kept saying, "Hey," they're fawning over me, like, "Hey, you're Lee Harvey. What number are you again, man?" They start, and I'm like, "Are you sure you're looking for me? Are you?" Because my name, I'm not probably who you're looking for. And they were like, "No, no, no, we're looking for you." And then so more scouts started coming around, and I started getting an idea like maybe I might have a chance to play. Guys started coming and asking me about, how much I weigh, my wingspan, all these little things that, you don't never think about. Like they measured how wide my hands were,
Hmm.
little things like that. They'd come and watch me practice. And I was like, man, I can't screw off at practice anymore. I got to put on a good front.
There
so,
you go.
so I had to be a leader on the field. And I really, at that point, I was like, man, this might be a shot. This might be a shot. So um, when I did, I went free agent New Orleans, and at that point, I kind of felt like I got one shot to make it, and honestly, that was probably a time in my life where I was the most dedicated to anything ever in my life. I
Hmm.
I remember being in North Africa with some Marines, and we're sitting and having lunch. And I asked them a simple question. I was like, "Has there ever been anything in your life that you have been damn near obsessed with? Like you ate it, you drank it, you slept it." And we sat there and talked about it. And I was like, there was one time for me, and that was before I went to the NFL. Like my whole life was about that. I'd go to school, I'd come back, I'd stretch, I'd run, I'd practice catching balls. Um, I was just fully immersed in it because at the end of the day, whether I made it or not, I didn't want to have any regrets. I wanted to know, like, if it was for me, it was for me, and and if it wasn't, then I can walk away and say, you know what, I put my best foot forward, and it just didn't happen for me because there's some super athletic guys out there,
Hmm.
and I felt like I could play at that level, but it wasn't going to be for me just sitting on my butt and relying on natural talent. I wanted to put the work in.
I love football. I coached sort of the Pop Warner for 9 years, and was just a great experience for all of my sons. I'm curious to learn though the path from football to the Green Berets, and then we're going to talk about the path to Team Rubicon. So how did all of those cards stack up and fall into place?
Well, it was unfortunately when I got released from the Saints, in the amount of time that it takes to fly from New Orleans back to Houston, which is like an hour, if that. I land and I got like 20 messages on my voicemail, and they're like, "Oh man, dang, I'm sorry to hear about that, man." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Mm.
And apparently it was on ESPN. So that's what
Oh,
that's what we're here talking about. I was like, "Oh man, you saw it?" And they were like, "Yeah, I saw it. Everybody saw it." So, I sat on the couch and felt sorry for myself for about 2 weeks and had a pity party of one. And so I finally got up, and when I was coming out of school, there was a guy I played against his son as a senior. Um, he had interviewed me for a job at NASA, and he asked me did I know his son, and he didn't know I played for the university football team,
mm-hmm.
and I had literally sacked his son 3 times, intercepted him, um,
Get a pick six
and
on him. Oh,
I almost had it all,
I've studied him. I know him very well.
yeah. He's like, my son. I was like, yeah, kind of, sort of.
We've met.
Yeah. And so I finally told him. He's like, well, how do you know my son? I was like, well, I played against your son last weekend. And he was like, oh, really? And I told him my number, my name, and all over again. He goes, oh, wow, man. Um, like, I didn't know that was you. And that he's like, my son has great respect for you. And like during the film study, his son had kept saying, hey, I got to watch out for this number 22. I got to watch out for this number 22. And so it was kind of different hearing the other side of the ball, what the other
Right.
guys are thinking about you.
Right.
Because I was hearing the same thing about him, like, oh, you got to watch that quarterback, man. He's got a quick release. He's this, he's that, So we stayed in contact because he was interested. He's like, hey, do you got a shot? And I was like, we'll see. I got a plan B though.
Right.
So he offered me a job. Then he said, if you don't go, you can come to work for me here at NASA as a communications and tracking officer with the
So this was
International
in
Space Station.
Houston. In Houston.
Houston.
Okay.
hmm And so after my disgraceful departure from the NFL, I called him up and I was like, hey Joe, man, is that job still open? And he was like, yeah, yeah, come on. Oh yeah, by the way, I saw you on ESPN. I was like, I can't get away from it.
This is turning into a 30 for 30 episode here, but okay. So what is a person? You said you were a tracking engineer. Is that what I heard you say? What was the so in layman's terms, what were you doing? Tracking satellites or?
Yeah, so basically, if you ever see the movies, they always have the crew that's up there in outer space, and then you have the team that's down there that's talking to the crew.
Mhm.
Well, I was one of those guys that sat at the desk, and they have the little placards up there, and it's communications and tracking. So I worked with the flight director, who's the lead element, to schedule communications between the ground stations and be it the shuttle or be it the International Space Station. So we worked on 3 different radio frequency groups: the S band, KU band, and UHF, or even the VHF. So I scheduled, coordinated that, sent commands to the vehicle to get the vehicle to do whatever we wanted it to do.
Wow. And then, so at what point do you say, yeah, I need to be a Green Beret also? When did that happen?
Well, during those times, I was still kind of bitter about the NFL, and my coach had called me. He's like, "Hey, you can come out here, and you can still be a coach, and we'll pay for your grad school. You can be like a GA assistant." And during that time, I was still too attached to football. Like, like I could see myself out there saying, "Give me that damn helmet. I'm gonna show you how to hit somebody." So,
Yeah.
so I was still too attached to the game, and I knew I would not be a good coach. So I was sitting there, but I missed the game. I missed the adrenaline. I missed the mental preparation. And so I was sitting there at work one day, and I looked out the window and I saw this free fall team coming. They're doing parachute operations. They're coming into Ellington Field out here at NASA, and And I was like, wow, man, that looks pretty exciting because I have a fear of heights. And
I was
I was like, man, I'm gonna go over there and see who these guys are. And I go over there and they're rolling up their chutes, and I'm like, hey man, where you guys from? And they're all sneaky peeky. They're like, oh, who are you? What do you want?
yeah,
Identify yourself.
they're not supposed to tell you what they're doing.
Yeah.
A
So
little
I was like,
vague
hey man.
maybe in their response.
Yeah. So I was like, hey man, I come in peace, man. I just want to know what you guys do. And they're like, hey, we're U.S. Army Green Berets. And I was like, hey man, how do I get down with that? It looks pretty badass. And so he gave me his card and he's like, hey, it's pretty challenging. You think you can do it? And I was like, I think I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Um, so I literally thought about it, and my first thoughts were like, but they jump from airplanes. But then I was like, well, I don't believe in letting fear hold me captive. You know, and I want to stare down fear and take that away from it. So I was like, I went and signed up and said, I want to do it. So,
Did you go to
um,
OCS and then
mhm,
on into the Green Beret?
yeah, I did.
And now you
So,
got over 300 jumps. Is
yeah.
that right? I think you've
Hmm.
overcome your fear, or either that, if you've learned to manage it.
Yeah, the fear's still there. Trust me.
I imagine it would be. Well, tell us. Let's jump to Team Rubicon. Tell everybody what Team Rubicon does and some of the focus. Maybe a little bit about the formation of it also, and when it came to be. It's been around since 2010, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. Team Rubicon is primarily a military civilian nonprofit organization that uh, assists in preparing, recovering, and relief from disasters. It was birthed from a couple guys seeing an event, a catastrophic event in Haiti back in 2010, and saying, "I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to take it upon myself to be a factor, be an impact." And the crazy part about that is I know exactly where I was when that earthquake happened. And I tell Jake Wood this all the time, that I was literally sitting in a mess hall stuffing my face when I saw the earthquake. But then somewhere else in someone else's life, someone was saying, I'm going to do something about that. And I feel kind of bad about that. I was like, man, I didn't, there's an opportunity for change, and I didn't take that shot. So when this came around, when Rubicon came around, I was like, here's an opportunity that I can be an impact in somebody's life, and I'm not going to miss that chance. So, you know, I'm happy to be here because you don't get another chance at opportunities like this again.
One of the things I read in your bio is that, one of the reasons you like Team Rubicon is because they came to you and said, you mean I can go around the world and attack problems, kind of like I did in the Green Berets? Is that where have you been in the world? Where's Team Rubicon going right now? I imagine you got some work on the Gulf Coast. We've had 5 storms, I think, come ashore, across Louisiana. But tell us about some of the ongoing efforts.
Well, this has been, I mean, 2020 is a crazy year. I think the record book should just say 2019, 2021, because we, or put an asterisk next to 2020 or something, because it's been a crazy year. This has been a record breaking year in terms of name storms, and they just keep coming. So Team Rubicon, they have the grit to continue to stand in the gap, and we are very active um, in the Gulf and all over the U.S. for that matter. But we're fully committed to serving some of these underserved communities, and so as long as as long as the storms keep coming, we'll keep responding. So what, I personally went down for Hurricane Sally there in Alabama. I'm currently in Houston, Texas right now, assisting some of our glaciers down here and rebuilding some of the homes that was destroyed or seriously damaged from Hurricane Harvey years ago. And that's just an example of how long it takes for some of these communities to recover. It's not a quick response, and we're here to stand shoulder to shoulder with the community and say, we're going to be here as long as it takes and help you guys.
So Team Rubicon has quite a large group of volunteers. Tell us about the makeup of the volunteers that go to work in disaster relief. Where do they come from? Lots of
Well,
veterans, I imagine, are involved in it as well, but not all veterans. But how does that process work?
process, yeah, you guys can sign up any day on our website, teamrubiconusa.org. Become a gray shirt. And it's not specific to just military. Team Rubicon's composition is about 70% military, 30% kick-ass civilians, as they like to say.
Hmm.
So we're a mixed bag. So before we were all military, we were all civilians. So every one of us have common ground. And so another common ground is that we're here to serve these communities and assist people in getting back on their feet. So, don't, if you're military, please come out. There's camaraderie, there's brotherhood, regardless of your service. If you're a civilian, we're all Americans. We all come from these communities. And if you don't, then I know that you have an open heart and come help someone who may not be as fortunate as you are. So I personally come from a vulnerable community. So I see the good that, the organization is doing out there.
In your role as crisis innovation lead, what are sort of your responsibilities and areas of authority?
Well, I think I'm the boss of just me, so I don't have a whole lot of a whole lot of authority. I'm the only one, and Team Rubicon, they they look for 3 years for the right type of person, and I'm glad that they feel that I'm the right type of person because they wanted someone that exhibits the type of mentality of thinking outside of the box, that's resourceful, that's cunning, that demonstrates mental agility. And so that's what I'm trying to build into crisis innovation, different ways to solve problems, both either simple or complex. We're internationally focused, but we're dual mission that we can take our innovative mindset and apply it domestically as well. So we're backed up by some of the brightest minds in Team Rubicon. And so crisis innovation is pretty much just a thought that, you can find opportunities to serve people in spite of catastrophe. There's always new ways, new doors to open. So that's what we're driving towards.
Lee, I've just had this thought thinking about your special forces experience, right? 12-man teams go in and really work with the population to organize, the effort. What a perfect preparation for you to do sort of exactly the same team building effort. What did you learn as a special forces officer that thinks that you think makes you effective in this role? It sort of seems obvious to me, but I want to hear it.
I mean, traveling abroad, it kind of opens your mental aperture. Like you accept different cultures for what they are. You don't walk in with your preconceptions of like they have to look like me, they have to talk like me, they have to act like me. You know, you accept that and you come at them from the heart that I'm here to assist you, and not to be the savior. I'm here to partner with you and link arms and say, hey, we're going to help you restore your community. So when I first came on board in Team Rubicon, I was like, you know what, the common thought is people think they may think of the special forces, they think of it as a destructive thing, like you're going to blow up something, you're going to destroy something. But no, it's you're building a community. It's our tagline, our saying is to free the oppressed. And oppression comes in many forms. You can be educationally oppressed, you can be financially oppressed. So that sits well with me. And we're the Green Berets, just for me, and I know every special operations unit out there, they feel like they're the best. I can only speak about the Green Berets. I've only been in the Green Berets.
Come on, you get. I'm gonna give you the perfect opportunity to, talk about Navy SEALs and hair gel and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if
Oh,
you
I got
want
them
to
all day.
take the opportunity.
No, I mean I love the Navy SEALs. I'm kidding. No,
No, no, no,
no.
no. If you're not insulting them, then that you're not. You really don't respect them. That's the kind of the way it works,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I like to show them tough love. I like to show them
Uh-huh.
tough love. So no, I think this mission suits all gray shirts, and what Crisis Innovation is trying to do, and I'm thankful to Team Rubicon to give me the freedom to kind of look for people that fit what we're trying to do internationally. And the international landscape isn't necessarily a replication of the U.S. mindset. And being a well-traveled person allows me, I have existing relationships in some of these countries, existing partnerships in some of these countries. Um,
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. Where is Team Rubicon sort of forward deployed right now? Where have you got people downrange at the moment?
well, we have resident gray shirts all over. We just recently um, uh, put the bag and tag on some operations that we'll kind of focus some efforts in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have um, a gray shirt community there in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have gray shirts in Central and South America, um, resident gray shirts in Africa. So we're around, and we
Hmm.
want to expand our footprint and be more of an impact, and export our expertise and our care and our devotion and commitment to helping others. So we're really looking forward to once COVID releases us from its deadly grip, we're really looking to be an impact out there.
Um, so let me throw spin something else at you. I mean, you really now have a new mission in life. One of the things we talked about before we got on the program was, that your sense that there are a lot of veterans out there that are suffering with some level of PTSD, and having a new mission in life is a great way to manage and address that. Uh, Obviously, Team Rubicon is a new mission, but what are your thoughts on PTSD? You brought that up. I wanted to be sure to explore that with you.
Yeah, I think everyone in life has some form of PTSD, and specifically those service members that have served. I've had my struggles. I've had my struggles, and I here recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, I participated in the Wounded Warrior Games. Um,
This was
so
Invictus, right?
yeah, I went to two Wounded Warrior Games, and then I actually went to Invictus too, which was
Okay,
like
right.
one of the highlights of my life is to wear the red, white, and blue and represent my country. I mean that was incredible. So but in while I'm there, I got to self heal through my service and helping some of my friends that aren't doing as well as I am. So that helps me knowing that I'm helping them. So the same rules apply when it comes to Team Rubicon. It helps me knowing that I'm helping someone else. So I'm not concentrating on, you know, things in my past that ache and nag at me. I'm concentrating on helping others heal. And that becomes my focus, helping others heal. So I know there's others out there like that feel the same way. So, by all means, find a way to give back. If you have troubles, um, seek help. It's no knock against anyone's womanhood or manhood. I particularly don't think it is. And I'll tell anybody it's yeah. I have PTSD. It's hard to do this job and not have some form of PTSD. So I accept it. But it won't keep me down. I'll keep pushing forward.
So yeah, some of the most fond memories I have are sort of doing that mission trip thing. Is that what is when you become a gray shirt and you deploy? What's the typical deployment look like? Is it you go for a week and work in a disaster area? Is that sort of the makeup of it? And also, is there training for the gray shirt?
Well, yes. You'll. you'll go, and it depends on the mission set. Sometimes you may go for a week, sometimes you may go for a month. It
Hmm.
depends on the catastrophe and the level of need. you know um you know it's very flexible. It's very dynamic. It's a very fulfilling event that Grace Church can go abroad and work with people who don't look like you, work with people who don't um, speak like you, but you still get the same impacts. That you can see it in their eyes that these people are appreciative of the efforts that you're making to come that distance to help them. And I think above all, that says a whole lot about you as a person.
Is there a story or a particular incident or an individual that you met either serving as a Green Beret or with your involvement in Team Rubicon that just stands out? Somebody's story that you might want to share?
Um, I think one of the stories, it's my own story, and um, it was during a dark time for me. It was during a dark time for me. I was in the hospital. I was medevac, and I was having a hard time struggling because we'd had a significant event, kind of a base overrun event. And fought for a long time. I was medevac, and I sat in the hospital. And as a commander, I'd lost a good friend of mine, and my senior NCO was almost killed. Um, and I sit there, and I uh, I struggled, and I got tired of struggling, tired of being angry. I got tired of being angry, and I fell on my knees, and I started praying, and I was like, God, why did you let this happen to me? And I I, I swear I heard a voice clear as day come to me and say, son, what I had laid in front of you and had planned for you was what I had planned for you. You're nothing but a man, and you cannot change the path that I have for you. I did that to you to make so that you can make stronger people. I give my biggest battles to my strongest soldiers. Now get up and do something about it. And since that day, I've never questioned my past. I've never questioned the road that I've traveled. I concentrate on the road forward and how I can be impactful in others' lives, how I can serve other people, because there's a path for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, those are strong words. I, I think that um, the military, one of the things that maybe you discover is that your limitations are mental also, not so much physical. Is and gosh, I'm almost dumbfounded now by listening to that story. It's just so many lessons in that. When you go back and look at your career and you go back and look at the steps maybe that you went through, even going into the service before you went back to college, does it all make more sense now that you had that, I don't know, that road to Damascus kind of experience?
Yeah, it does, and I, we've all taken our lumps. We've all been scuffed up, along the way, but at the end of the day, I don't regret it. I wouldn't change one thing. I walk away from my military service proud of what I've done, proud of my nation, proud of my countrymen, proud of my fellow sisters and brothers in arms. Um, and I take those lessons that I've learned and I apply them here at Team Rubicon. You know, on a daily basis. Just something as simple as being able to work around a myriad of people, from different cultures, different religious beliefs, different political affiliations. You learn through the military. There's very few places that you learn to work with people that are so much unlike you and like you at the same time.
So we've been talking with Lee Harvey, who's the crisis innovation lead at Team Rubicon. Lee, let me ask you a few more questions. So what what's the future? What's the future mission now? What's the vision maybe for Team Rubicon for the coming out of 2020 for maybe for the next 5 years? Is there a central mission and goal that maybe we should be sharing with everybody? And then I do want to talk about, let's recruit. How do we get people to sponsor this, and how do we get people to become involved? But what's the core mission maybe for Team Rubicon for the next couple of years?
I think with Team Rubicon internally, we've set some lofty goals because we want to continue to challenge ourselves. We want to be a force worldwide. We want to have a gray shirt presence worldwide where people expect Team Rubicon at at any disaster, at any human crisis. We want to be there. We want to be counted on. And if we're not there, we want people to say, "Where's Team Rubicon?" So we want to grow, increase our presence, increase our service, increase our contribution to society, to humanity. So I mean, everyone here loves what they do. Everyone here is. This is probably the first place I've ever worked where everyone here is a believer and everyone is in the same mindset that they want to be that guy. They want to take that last shot. So that right there makes you want to go to work. That's right there makes you look at the person to your right and your left and be like, yeah, he's here for the right reason. He's here for the right
Sort
reason.
of get to be like the cavalry riding over the hill and coming to the rescue, right?
Yeah, yeah. I like being counted on. I like to be in the factor. I like being a factor. So yeah.
Fantastic. How does one get involved as an individual, and how does one get involved to help perhaps sponsor Team Rubicon?
Well, to get involved as an individual is really, really quite simple. Just go to our website, read about Team Rubicon, look at our mission, look how we became Team Rubicon. I mean, it was an innovative act that was the genesis of Team Rubicon. Look at what we're doing around the world, what we've done around the world, and sign up to be a gray shirt and become active. You know, sign up to go on deployment, sign up to respond to some of these events, these wildfires, these tropical depressions, these hurricanes. Be an active member. So it starts with going to the website and sign up to be a gray shirt, get registered, and we'll reach out to you. As far as uh, assisting us fulfill this mission, we have a development partner department where you can either donate there right there on the website, or reach out to our development partner and coordinate an actual donation or a giving. So it's really quite simple. It's laid out.
Perfectly. So we will put links to all of these things on the show notes so that our listeners can learn more about Team Rubicon and reach out. And also, I think I'm gonna indulge and make sure that we add your LinkedIn profile as well. I know there's lots of people that are going to want to reach out to you and speak with you directly, potentially. You've got an awesome story. Gosh, football, NFL, sort of the rocket scientist, which is what they probably called you. Did you get sort of a call sign related to that in the special forces? Was there a
Yeah,
nickname?
you know, the funniest thing was that when I was going through special forces school, they never knew I played football. They just knew I came from NASA. And so when I got I'm not the smallest guy. I'm 6'1", 230. So they would come out there and they'd say, "Man, rocket scientist, you're a pretty big guy for a rocket scientist."
They
And
never
so,
figured out that you'd played football.
no, they
You
they
just
found out at the end. They found out at the end, and they were like, "Why didn't you tell us you played football?" I'm like, "Why would I tell you that?"
the best strategy is to blend into the background and not have a
Yeah,
high, raise your profile, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
that's just fantastic. Well, I'm really excited about Team Rubicon. I really appreciate you letting me learn something about it and our listeners learn about it. Just fantastic. Great, Lee, to have you on the program today. Thank you so much for stepping into the spotlight.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Great time.
We've been listening to Lee Harvey, who's the Crisis Innovation Lead at Team Rubicon. We'll be adding links to Team Rubicon and ways that you can reach out and help to the show notes for this program. Just a fantastic discussion today, Lee. The spotlight airs on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we try to highlight those veterans who are making a difference in the community. And Lee, you are certainly doing that. Bravo Zulu to you, and that's a wrap.